Hey guys, I'm Jordan Fromer. I believe in hunting hard, hunting smart, and having a fun time while doing it. And shooting limits, well, that's just the icing on the cake. I revel in the journey just as much as the successes it brings. From ducks to dogs to decoys and guns, we'll be talking tactics, strategies, and what it takes to get the job done. Load up and take aim. This is the Duck Gun Podcast.
What's going on, folks? Thanks for joining me on another episode of the Duck Gun Podcast. I'm Jordan from Duck Gun Chronicles, your host and guide for this season, and I got Elliott alongside me tonight, Mr. Gary Beard, the Ductator, the man of many names. How you doing tonight, Elliott?
Also known as Graybeard for Men. You know, that was on a package delivery to my door. I just opened that. I just opened that tonight, actually. I've been holding off on opening it. I thought I was going to do an Instagram live thing. I've been so busy. I'm like, I'm just screwed. I want to open it.
Yeah. No, I've been there on that. So, but yeah, we are back here for another podcast. We are making it through the week. Hope you guys are too. And just in time for the weekend and another weekend of hunting for, I know, a lot of you guys across the country. But yeah, what have you been up to, Elliott?
Well, we just got back from the Kansas Opener, and it was, I'll tell you, this is the best start to any season I've ever had. Simply because we started off in Nebraska, and it started a week early, but 4 for 4 hunts, 4 limits. So I'm at quarter way to 100 already after the opening week of Kansas Teal season.
Yeah. I'm not jealous at all. So today's episode,
it's
guys,
a good start.
Is going to be the hunt update. So I'm going to have to rein Elliott back in here. I know he wants to jump into it right away. So I think
it was good.
You could just go off.
It was good.
But yeah, definitely looking forward to hearing about that. I'm actually not caught up all the way on your videos yet, and I know you're not on mine as well. So we'll definitely have some fresh content to talk about with each other. So looking forward to that. But yeah. Any other non-hunt update news before we jump up into it?
Non-hunt update news. The only thing I would talk about is just those HTR products that came in. That's really the only non-hunt update news, because I've been hunting or editing or watching other Flyways Collective videos. So the only thing I got is the HTR gear that came in, which I'm super excited about.
Awesome.
That's it. And I think I'm going to be using one of those pieces this weekend. I'm pretty sure. The Quack Pack.
Sweet.
Came at a perfect time, because I don't think there's going to be very many hunts that I use that Quack Pack on. It's an awesome piece of equipment. It's like, but for what I'm doing, I don't walk in, and I don't think a lot that I will probably use that. But this is the perfect scenario for that product. For those of you that walk in and carry when you walk in, and I don't do that much anymore, but this is the perfect scenario for that, with a little solo hunt, and it'll be really cool, because it's Georgie and I, just she and I on it with the Quack Pack, and I'll get back in there. I plan on kind of propping it up against a tree is my plan. I don't think I'll full lay out.
Nice.
But I think I'll have it up against a tree.
There you go.
So, yeah.
How do you like it from the difference between the original that you used for like your layout hunting and now kind of the updated with the smaller profile and the fold out and kind of being more mobile with it? You kind of like the updates on it?
Well, I haven't tried to use it yet, but I'm certainly excited about it. So the old layout lounge was longer, and when you used it in the H12, the only issue that I had, and my dad hates this about it actually, is that when you stick your feet under that front part of your kayak with that layout lounge on your back, it kind of makes it hard to get your feet in and out. It never really bothered me that much, but it bothered my dad so much that he didn't even want to use it for some reason. So I showed it to him, and he was like drooling over it. So when we get in our 2 boats, he's going to be the one using that for sure. But I was a little concerned before I got it about its flexibility, because with the other layout lounge, you can swivel it so that it's full sitting up. So if you're hunting blue-winged teal, you don't want to lay out, you can use it like a sit-up chair. And then if you're hunting mallards, you can lay it flat out. Now it's not really designed to do that, but it does it perfectly because it's flexible enough. And then you can lay it flat. Well, so I was a little worried about this one because it folds over. I was like, well, are you still going to be able to do that same function of flexibility. And I was playing with it, and you can. So I think that it's a great improvement that it's shorter, thinner on the bottom, but yet you can still maneuver it as either a sit up or a full lay down. So yeah, I'm really happy about. And also another thing I had problems with the old one is flying out of the boats to and from. I had that happen a couple times, and this one, the way you can fold it up and snap it, you won't have that problem at all. So yeah, I really do think these upgrades are good upgrades that will be very beneficial.
Awesome. All right. Well, I don't think I have any other non-hunt updates either. So, yeah, I guess the only thing we can talk about the flyways real quick. So, we had another flyways meeting with all of our flyways guys, which if you guys aren't familiar with it, it's me, Duck and Chronicles, Elliott, freelance duck hunting, Josh, Outdoor Limits, Titus, Mid-Valley Mercenary, Matt, High Prairie Sportsman, and Thomas from Virginia Outdoors Unlimited. We just talked about our plans for going out on our collab hunt this year, and it just seems more and more real. You know, we got our Airbnb booked. It's in the books. You know, everything's set up. Everyone's getting their days off for work, and so everything's approved for everybody. And man, it's just gonna be. I think it's gonna be so much fun. So really excited for it.
I'm excited. Titus is such a cool guy, and I mean, I love everyone in the flyways, but something about Titus, he just kind of has a cool aura about him and everything. You know what I'm saying? I know you do. Yeah. And I'm excited about picking him up from the airport and just driving him down and hanging out with him and talking to him for a couple hours.
Nice.
Just that little one-on-one bro time, honestly.
There you go. Yeah. Now it's going to be good.
I'm excited about that. And that was the thing about this weekend was just hanging out with Josh because he was on our hunt trip, which I'll talk more about later. But just having him in our FDH camp the whole weekend, I really got to know him at a different level. Because, you know, it's 6 of us hanging out all together. It's like, it's nice to have those little breakout, you know, just get to meet someone. And that's what's cool about those hunts is you're with each people, you know. But we did ours in such big groups last year that it was nice to get to know Josh on that a little more. I hate to use the word intimate, but that's what it is. Level.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. No, yeah, that's, I mean, definitely the cool part about hunting, you know, getting to get out there with your bros. And a lot of times it's, you know, some of the only times you get to talk to people. And, you know, I got one good buddy. I know he probably listens to a lot of these podcasts, but Taylor, and he lives an hour and a half away from me now. And we just don't really get the time to hang out. You know, we grew up across the street from each other. We're both in each other's weddings, and you know, so like I said, we're just really good bros. But you know, getting out there and hunting is pretty much the only time we can actually talk and chill and hang out, you know, the way we used to growing up. So definitely a cool aspect of hunting, getting to get out there with your buddies and have some of that bro time. So
yeah, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a lot better than last year was great. But I think this year is going to be better.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I know I'm looking forward to it more than last year. And I think it's because we're more prepared. We have a better idea what we need to do. We realize it's not all about like, hey, like, can we hunt all day and just be exhausted and get up at 2:30 in the morning every day? And, you know, it was just, by the end of it, like, I feel like I was like a grump. So
yeah, we grinded out really, really hard on that trip. We hunted it out hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely something to be excited about. But I just realized that I did have another update to give before we get into the podcast. But I hit 10,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. So, you know, pretty pumped about that. Been a long road. Thinking about it, this is almost exactly, you know, I think give it like another month, and it'll be exactly 4 years of filming waterfowl hunts for the YouTube channel. So it's just it's been a long journey, and you know, the other side part of it, which, you know, it was ton of fun and games, me and Matt back and forth racing for the 10K and, you know, jabbing at each other. I think we had like 3 or 4 lead changes too, so it was a tight race all the way through. So
it was awesome.
Yeah, so super pumped. Hit the 10K over there on Duck Gun Chronicles YouTube channel. Definitely check it out. check out Elliott as well, Freelance Duck Hunting over on YouTube. But yeah, so I think that's my.
Have you seen Matt's TikToks about losing?
Yeah.
They've been great. He's stepped up his TikTok game quite a bit. I hadn't been
yeah.
on TikTok for a while, and I got on it last night, and he's stepping up his TikTok game. He did one with a little cute, like, duet dancing with a girl. Did you see that?
Yeah, yeah. He's living and breathing the TikTok, so I'm going to have to hop on there to make sure I keep my throne on that as well.
But I posted my first TikTok for all yesterday. Did you see it? It was a little Georgie TikTok.
Yeah. She was crushing it.
Yeah. That's the first one I've done for a while.
I think I should say, too, after all this time, me and Matt going back and forth, definitely check out Matt, High Prairie Sportsman. If you've been holding off, I know we got probably a bunch of good Saints up in here that have been holding off subscribing to Matt just so I could win. It's okay now. I've won the challenge. Unless he challenges me to like 15 or 20K, which maybe, just a thought. Maybe I should challenge him again, but we'll see. So definitely a lot of fun with that. But are you ready to go ahead and jump into the podcast?
Yep, let's do it.
Alrighty. But before we do that, a quick word from our partners, and we'll get right into it. So first off, I'd like to give a big thanks out to HTR Innovations. We're talking about it here a little bit earlier, and on HTR Innovations, some of the new products we got the Quack Pack Mini, and it's just like the Quack Pack you guys have known and loved, but just a smaller version, more compact, and really it's better set up for hiking out in a more manageable size and at a lower price point. So it's a decoy backpack, layout blind combo. Put your gun on it. You can put your blind bag in it, your decoys. You walk out to the hunt, unfold it, put the blanket on it, and bam, you're layout hunting. So definitely check out that, as well as the rest of their products over there at htrinnovations.com. And the promo code for that is DuckGun10.
And I want to talk to you guys about Gunner Kennels. I don't know if you've been watching my first few teal videos. I've got 4 out now, and they have had a heavy focus on Georgie. And I've talked about her a lot on the podcast, and it's just been a central theme of my videos. And we're traveling to Nebraska. We're traveling to different places in Kansas. And I can tell you for sure, I've got that Gunner Kennel in there and Georgie in it where she can be safe. I've put a lot of time and effort into this dog. And if I have to spend a few dollars to get a kennel that's going to make sure that she survives some kind of crash, then that's what needs to be done. And she's not the only dog of mine that's going to be in this kennel, I can promise you. I think in my life, I can probably have 2 more dogs after Georgie, and I guarantee this one's going to last. And it's going to be the kennel that I need for all of those dogs. So as much time and effort as we spend on these dogs, guys, get yourself a Gunner kennel and make sure that they're safe. 10% off, Duck Gun space 10, capital DUCK, capital GUN space 10.
Awesome. Also like to give a big thanks out to Motion Ducks decoy spreader system, and it is they got 2 offerings over there for the duck spreader. They got the 4, which is just the regular duck spreader, and then the ultimate spreader, which is the 7, and that's what Elliott and I have been using. Perfect for getting that lifelike motion in your set. It sets up in minutes, packs up the same way, highly mobile with it. And don't just take our word for it. It's something where you can see the video of it. Just makes a huge difference on your experience with it. And just seeing that video, it's going to sell you when you see the video of it for sure. So Elliott and I both have videos of it on our YouTube channels, as well as if you just Google Motion Ducks decoy spreader, you're going to see it. It is like a jerk rig, but on steroids. So definitely check it out. Perfect for those no-win days. Use code DuckGun2020, and that's different from last year's code. But this year's code is DuckGun2020. I know I had someone asking me last week over Instagram. So yeah, the code's changed to DuckGun2020, and it gets you 10% off and free shipping over there at motionducks.com.
Then I talk about Banded, Avery, and GHG. And if you look at all my hunting equipment, it's littered with all 3 of their companies' equipment, from my Banded slew stand to the little teal decoys that I'm using. I mean, I just absolutely love their products. But I mentioned the dog slew stand. I picked that from them. It's under $100, and I love it. I was using, actually, Titus left his from the flyways last year, and I used it for a while and actually broke. And I wasn't a big fan of the leg construction, and I'm not going to say which brand it was, but this Banded slew stand, I love it. I've had it with her on every single hunt. It's well made, it's sturdy, it folds up easily. It's a great product. Actually, Avery Sporting Dogs has a lot of products for dog stuff. So banded.com can get you to all three of those companies. And I'll never go away from and I know people don't necessarily agree with this, I will never go away with those fall plumage blue-winged teal decoys. I am in love with how they look out there. They look exactly like blue wings on the water, and we're using those for sure. That's a Greenhead Gear piece of equipment. So go to banded.com and check this stuff out.
Awesome. Also like to give a big thanks out to Finisher. Their website is adrenaline.com. And guys, it's the perfect tool for dispatching your birds, and it's never been easier with it. Just a quick incision in the back of the head, and it dispatches the bird in a humane way. And it's, part of our job as hunters to take care of the game, and the animals that we're hunting. And I know it sounds weird in that way, but it's definitely our responsibility, that we're not, putting these animals through undue pain and suffering when we're out there harvesting them. And he has tons of different options over there for the Finisher, as well as he has other options like their coolers and headlamps and all types of different gear. But their main gig over there is definitely the Finisher. And the code for Finisher that we got is DuckGun15. Gives you 15% off. Definitely check those guys out at adrenaline.com. It's ADRENAL-LIN.com. Alrighty. And then lastly, guys, I want to give you guys a quick reminder for Elliott and I. We're both pushing out hats for our brands, Duck Gun hats, and then also Elliott's got his FDH hats. He's got one in camo and one in tan, and I got one in Bottomlands, and I got two left, the leather patch Duck Gun hats with the Oak Nuts decals. So definitely check those out, guys, on the flywestcollective.com. Alrighty, let's go ahead and jump into today's podcast. All right, so we're going to be talking about our hunts. Elliott, what do you got this week? You got 2 teal hunts?
I got 2 teal hunts.
Awesome. Well, my hunts have not been nearly as memorable, or maybe memorable is not the right word, but definitely have not been as action-packed as the Central Flyway Kansas Teal Bonanza that you guys have been having. So
it's been good.
I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a little jealous.
I wish you'd have come down.
Yeah, well, I wish I would have too, but it just wasn't in the cards this year with missing work with surgeries and operations and all kinds of not fun stuff. So unfortunately, but hopefully there's always next year, and hopefully the teal do the same thing. So, but yeah, kind of, you told me before the podcast, or maybe you told me at the beginning, that this has been your best year for teal hunting ever. Starting off the 4 limits in Nebraska, and to kind of counter that, this has been my worst early season since I've started hunting the early season, as far as numbers go. So
yeah,
but the thing is, I don't feel like it's been the worst, which is probably a good thing, right?
Yeah, it means you're maturing.
Yeah.
Still out there having a good time.
Yeah. Yep. So I guess trying to figure out how we split this up. But I guess I'll start talking about my first hunt, and then I have some other ones that are pretty short to wrap up, and we'll talk about your teal hunts in the middle. Sound like a good game plan?
Sounds good to me.
If you guys can't tell, we just kind of shoot from the hip. So we knew we were talking about our hunts, but we hadn't. We'll just figure it out as we go. So
just sitting around, just like if we were on the phone talking about it, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, let's go ahead. So the first hunt was Indiana Goose Opener, back in the hometown, back in the home turf, and getting the boat out for a fun adventure. So actually I'd been scouting this spot for a while and map scouting. I'd actually never been out to it, but I knew that there were just a ton of geese in the area. And so the night before I went out there and I was going to try to get to the spot, but I was just by myself, and I get to the boat ramp, and it's like the sketchiest thing you've ever seen in your life. Like they had like these cement tiles, and there's like gaps in them big enough that like my boat trailer tires would just fit into it without with just fall into it, and I wouldn't be able to back or go forward once they fell into the gap. So I decided not to go on that venture by myself, and just wait till the next morning and go up there with the whole hunting crew. So
now, where was this at? What was the setting again?
This was local. It was on a river, but there's just this terrible boat ramp. So we get out there the next day, and I have eyes so I can back down the trailer a little better down the boat ramp, and we literally had to get the boat in there, and it wasn't deep enough. We had to just pull it off by hand and get it into the water. So luckily, I got a small rig, because you really couldn't do that with a bigger boat. But yeah, so we got up to the spot. It was actually pretty cool. I'm super excited about having a duck boat this year. I'm not going to lie. It just opens a lot of doors. And honestly, I don't think we ever would hunt this spot, because it's hard to get to, without that kind of option. Even with most duck boats, I feel like you got to have the right setup to do this one, because it's just a bunch of shallow water. And yeah, so we get up to the spot, and the water's down here. I don't know if it's down there, but we're probably down 2 or 3 feet more than normal. Probably 2 feet, I'd say, more than normal. So we couldn't even get exactly where we wanted to go. But we got pretty close, and right on the bank, there's a bunch of muck and just goose prints all over it. So we figured that was a pretty good place to set up. So we set up right there in the boat blind. We got the beaver tail pop-up blind, which has got the 3 holes in the top, all brushed in, ready to go. And so,
who's all with you?
So Hunter went with me, and actually got my brother-in-law Sam to go with me. And it's the first time that he hasn't been ever since I started hunting. I've been trying to get him to go, because he's hunted in the past, but just the time in his life, it wasn't perfect setting to get out in the hunts. Him and my sister, they have 5 kids, so they've been busy popping out babies. So finally he's got a little bit of a break in there, I think, where he's able to kind of get back to the hunting. So I was super excited that he's back out hunting. So I actually came on a dove hunt earlier this year too. So so kind of continue on with the hunt. So we set up in the boat, and first light we have some wood ducks buzz by, and then we had some wood ducks decoy right in, and we had some mallards literally just drop over the trees. I've never seen mallards drop so hard right into our set, and it's just killing me that it's not duck season, because we're having all these ducks buzz in there. And but it wasn't too long after shooting light, and we have our first group work in, and they circle, and it's like they're trying. The wind was, I don't know. It's like I didn't know how the geese were getting in there, because there's a really tight hole. You can kind of see it from the video. But they were trying to get in. They were trying to drop in, and the first time they kind of dropped in, and they couldn't quite do it, and then they did it again, and they're circling probably 25 yards up, and they come around one more time, and me and Hunter kind of talking back and forth on if we're going to shoot him or not, and we ended up pulling up and shooting. And we bush shot once and popped one and dropped one each, and then that same group, I'm pretty sure it was a family group, because they kept circling after that, kept circling around, and then 4 of them went and landed somewhere else, just down the river. And then about 10 minutes later, those 4 got back up and flew right into our decoys. So
nice.
So needless to say, we popped off 4 of those as well. So yeah, and that was pretty much.
Sounds like a pretty good hunt.
Yeah, no, it was a solid.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So we shot 6 birds on the morning, 6 geese, from the duck boat. Chief getting used to it, using the doggy door, jumping out, and we had a little bit of struggles for him figuring out how to get back in, but especially while we're calling and trying to work birds in. But yeah, so that was pretty much the hunt. We sat there for the rest, 3 more hours after that, maybe even longer. And we had some birds work to other spots on the river, but not to us. So yeah, that was pretty much it. But really, it was a really fun hunt. That's the best hunt I've had so far of the season. Shooting 3 geese, and I couldn't complain about it. I really had a lot of fun on that one. But we did have one bad, I would say minor, but I don't know how minor it is yet. But all of a sudden, my boat motor started just grinding terrible.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, Yeah, I noticed that some of the bolts that hold the kit to the motor were missing, which means they fell into like the gears and the chain down there. So
Oh no.
pretty much had a bolt in between the chain and the gears, just grinding away. But it fell out. We're able to keep driving, get back, and all that. But I didn't say anything about that in the video, so stay tuned. My video for that is coming out Sunday. So
Your videos may start being like mine from a couple years ago. It's like every single hunt is boat problems.
Yep.
It's not fun. Not fun.
No, but that's boat life for you. So yeah, that was our Indiana early goose opener. Definitely pretty solid. So couldn't complain about it. But yeah,
You think that might be a place that you hunt ducks?
oh yeah, for
Coming
sure.
up this
Definitely,
season?
I'm excited about that as just a prospect for hunting all year. I think that where it's going to really shine because it's on the river, and there's like a little slow part off of it, but I feel like that fast flowing water is going to keep it open. So if we get really cold in like December, something like that, I think that could be just a killer spot for ducks and geese.
I'm gonna have to watch that video tonight because that sounds really interesting. Geese in your boat on the river.
Yeah, no, it was a really good one. It's doing solid on YouTube too. So,
What was the temperature like?
oh, not cold enough. It was like it was cold enough that I could wear like a pullover, for like the morning, and then I think I took it off later on. So, but this weekend it's getting down to 37 here, so it's gonna be chilly.
Is that normal for this time of year for you guys, or is that a little bit cold?
That's a little bit colder, yeah.
Yeah. The weather's been great this time of year for us. Just great.
Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and talk about your teal hunts.
All right, so this weekend it was the Kansas Teal Opener, which is typically our very first two hunts of the year. But since we went to Nebraska, it was actually hunts 3 and 4. And I've got a feeling we'll be going to Nebraska every year. It's just such a great place. But so on the trip was my dad, Aiden Golden Boy, and Josh from Outdoor Limits. He decided last second he was going to come with us. And so we know this area, I mean, like the back of our hand, but there's been some renovations and some changes made, which has dispersed the water in different ways that we didn't really know. And we weren't fully able to scout the area. So we weren't sure. Normally I get out there and I've got a whole day off and I'll sleep out there Thursday and I'll spend the whole day Friday scouting. And so we'll know exactly where we're going to go, where we're going to set up and all that. But this year I couldn't get the day off. I could only get a half day off. So Josh went up there early and he didn't know the area at all. And I spent some time on, over Zoom showing him some spots to focus on. And last week when we were recording, I got, a call from someone saying there was like more ducks there than I had ever known being there. Well, the morning that we were driving, I got another contact from him saying, man, a bunch of these ducks left. So all of a sudden I started getting worried about it. But I mean, there was twice as much there as what I would have been happy with. But when you hear that a lot of ducks left, it makes you scared. So I was even more important now to do scouting than before. So Josh spent the whole day there scouting and he was, trying to stay optimistic, but not feeling great about it. But, him not knowing the area, he was road scouting and I was like, man, there's a couple areas we got to get boots on the ground and get into because I mean, if you haven't hunted teal much, if they're not flying, they can get in there and hide on you. And there can be hundreds, if not thousands in a pool. And you don't even know because they're just hard to find. I've had two examples this year scouting where I'm walking into a marsh and I get 50 yards from a bunch of birds and I have no idea that they're there. And all of a sudden they're blowing up out into there. And I'm like, oh, how did I not see all these birds? I mean, it's not that thick a cover, so they can really hide. So, my dad and I and Aiden all arrived there about the same time at the campsite. And so the four of us went around, did a bunch of scouting, which was really fun, just hanging out with my dad. And I loved that part of the video, we're making fun of Aiden and teasing Josh. And I loved that. It was a really fun time. But we went and did some scouting and with a lot of glassing, we saw some birds in this area. Like, well, we don't really know this area because the water changes. So let's walk in there. So we walked in there. And as soon as they started flushing I was like, okay, there was I don't know how many was in there. There was a lot of birds in there. So we pretty much knew, okay, this is where we want to be. We just have to make sure that we get it. And it was a pretty big area that could hold a lot of hunters. We felt really good about it going to sleep. So went back to the campsite, and there's way more trucks in this campground than I've ever seen before. And I certainly hope it's not because my videos year after year. I hope it's not, but I was thinking about that today. But I don't think so, because the number of hunters there this weekend was lower than normal. Normally it'll hold from 150 on an opener to 225, and the number I heard was about 120, which is pretty down. So I was happy with it. And so we got up there, woke up the next morning, got to the lot, and there was one other truck of guys there, just two guys, and they had just gotten there before us. Really, really nice guys. So we're talking, you guys, they're going to go over to the left and we're going to go over here. And for the opener, I mean, we weren't pressured at all. We could not visually see anybody during this whole hunt. We knew where a couple groups were and we could hear them shooting, but we couldn't hear them talking. And so, for an opener, if you can't visually see anyone, that's really, really good. I was real happy with that. So as we went in there, and this is an idea that we might try with the Flyways Collective. If we were to go in with like 4 guys on a hunting group and then you split off into 2 and 2, then the video content's just fresher. So we decided to do this because Josh was making a video, his first duck hunt of the year. And then I was making a video and he just wanted to do a solo. So we went in there and he set probably only 75 yards from us, and he faced off a little bit of a different direction. And then we faced a different direction. So we could almost talk to him, but it was too, so the videos, I don't know if you saw his video, it was totally different feel and everything to ours. It was pretty cool. It was supposed to be sunny that morning, and it actually wasn't, and there was some fog. So at first light, it was really difficult to see. So we were having problems seeing birds, and there wasn't actually quite as much movement as I expected there to be, because I mean, there was still a lot of movement. I expected there to be, just insane activity. And so we were pretty much shooting one at a time. My dad was sitting with the camera. And so Aiden and I were kind of rotating, and Georgie was in between us. And I mean, we were getting birds right down in the pocket. And I mean, all the shots were nice, close, and easy. And so I think it was probably about an hour and 15 minutes to an hour, 20 minutes. The 3 of us had limited out, and Josh had limited out. It was just a fantastic morning. Georgie was, until the very last, I think it was the last retrieve of the day, where she broke and wasn't steady. Other than that, I mean, she was just on it. She was just lightning fast and marking everything perfectly. There was no situations where I had to do any hand signals or anything. And I know I really need to work on that, where she is with it, but she was fantastic. The only downside to the day is I had a group come through, and it was a big group. Well, not a huge group, probably 10 birds, maybe 12. And I wish I hadn't shot on it, because if I'd have waited, maybe they'd have circled back around. Anyway, I took a pass shot, and this bird dropped the leg, and it flew about 125, 150 yards. And I never actually saw him go down, but when they're going over the trees and you can just tell they're going down. Yeah. So took a shot at that, and I'm like, man, I got to count that as a lost bird. So I did lose that one. So I only lost 2 birds all last year. And so I've already lost 1 now, but, so we did all shoot our limits. I think that we shot 1 or 2 green wings out of the 24 birds were shot between the 4 of us. And I think all blues and 1 green wing. But it was a spectacular opener. It was really, really fun. Yeah. And so, from that point, we had the rest of the day, and it was, I think, about 60 degrees that morning. it was cool enough that we could wear. Yeah, go ahead.
So one thing I want to say, I just want to, I'm sure you're going to enjoy this, but I just want to say how impressive Georgie is in your videos. I mean, she is just a little rocket. I mean, for being 3 hunts in, I mean, that's just insane. Like, she's doing better than seasoned veteran dogs, even like to the technical skills. And I mean, we haven't seen like real hand signals and whistle sit and all that much yet. But just from everything else that you really want from a duck dog, she sits there, she doesn't break, she's a freaking bullet, finds the ducks, comes back, brings them to place, and gives them to hand. So it's like, kudos to you and Flatlander Kennels on that, producing those dogs, and then you training that dog yourself, and it's just she's a little stud, female stud.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I do. It's really, really rewarding. With my other dogs, I just never put in that much effort. I put in some effort with Izzy, but my goals I went towards my goals, which is just be steady, bring everything back to me. And she did drop them short more often than I would like her to, but I just never really put in the effort. And, having this podcast and talking about it so much and having access to guys like Chris Jobman and Freddie King and it was hard. It was impossible not to be more into it. 'Cause I've got all this support from people. And once I got into it, it's really fun. And I've got this dog. From what I know, I truly believe that Chris Jobman is putting out some of the, if not the best dogs in the entire country.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at, he took more dogs to the I don't know, I can't remember the actual name of it, Grand Master Championship, whatever. He took more dogs to both organizations' top level trials than any other kennel in America. I mean, the dogs that he is putting out are just insane. And I mean, when you see her, you can just see it. I mean, from Hunt 2, the morning of Hunt 2, she was a different dog. Like, it took her one hunt, like almost half of one hunt to be like, what's going on? I haven't seen anything like that, like this. What am I, and then morning of Hunt 2, man, she was just boom. All right. She knows, she's got it. She knows the deal. She knows the routine. And a lot of that is straight bloodline, a lot of that.
I think this is like one of the best arguments for there's some people who say, I don't think bloodlines matter that much. It's just like when you see a dog with true, superior top of the line bloodlines, I think this is like a perfect argument. Like, hey, point to this dog right here. Watch this. It's all documented, for people who will say that they don't think bloodlines matter that much. It's like, bloodlines matter a lot.
Yeah, they do. Absolutely do. I couldn't agree more. And it is so, that time that we had Chris on, he's like, when he was going to trials for the first time of his life and just watching him, and he had a dog and he's like, man, I want one of those dogs, and he's like, Elliott, you got one of those dogs. And I loved when he said that. And I've repeated a bunch because it made me feel so good. But now, she's getting into the hunting. It's like, okay. I've had other dogs around, and my dad's dogs have been great, and Candy's a good dog and everything. And they're good bloodlines and all of that. But good grief. I mean, just to see the focus, she's focused, she's crazy driven, but she's got that on off switch that they're really talk about. And they're trying to breed into dogs now where she's not an insane dog. She's easy to hunt with. And part of that is training, but part of that is like some of these like high powered crazy dogs just don't have an off switch, and she's got it. She wants to please me. She's got an off switch. I mean, and my head is growing big about how fast she is. I love it. How fast she looks in those videos, man. Well, I do.
And like, nothing against Izzy, obviously, and she's not going to hear this, and her feelings aren't going to be hurt. But like, it's just like it's like a night and day difference between your older dog that just slowly kind of meanders back to you, and this dog who almost runs as fast back as she does there.
Yeah. And what an advantage on winged birds. I mean, we had a bird on Hunt 4, which you haven't watched yet, and it was supposed to be Candy's turn, but as soon as I saw it kind of clipped and going down, when we see those situations where we think a bird's wounded, we don't take turns, we just release the dogs. And I wasn't waiting. I was like, Georgie, and she just flew out there and she scooped that thing up so quick. I mean, if that had been Izzy on it and that bird was wounded, it'd have been like, she'd still be waddling out there to try to get it, and that makes a huge difference for lost birds. I mean, it makes a huge difference. And that's one of my big arguments about not shooting 55-yard shots, 60-yard shots, because if you get a crippled bird that sails a little bit from 60, what's your chance at losing it versus 15 to 20? I mean, as fast as Georgian, she can be on a wounded bird before it even knows what's going on. So yeah, it's been really, really fun to hunt with this little dog. I will say on Hunt 4, she was not steady about 3 different times. So I'm going to have to really focus back on it. She's understanding it now so much that she's like, all right, I don't know if I can wait on this. And she's whining a little bit that I need to break that as well. So I need to refocus myself. She was so steady those first 2 hunts. The second weekend, I kind of took it for granted, her steadiness a little bit. And so I wasn't quite as attentive. I was just expecting her to be steady. And so I need to refocus a little bit this weekend and have my e-collar ready and make sure that she's lock solid steady too. And I don't think it'll be a problem in the long run, but anyway, awesome. She did regress a little bit on that.
So yeah, I guess I haven't seen your week 2 video on that. So how'd you guys decide how to split up and all that? So I know,
the second day?
Yeah. All I know from the second day is your thumbnail. So,
yeah. Okay.
Let's go ahead.
Well, we could have easily gone back to the same place. I mean, there were still birds flying but on my Nebraska trip, we hunted the exact same place twice. And I was like, I really would like to hunt something a little bit different if we could. And so we went back to camp and the temperature had kind of gotten up till about 80 degrees, 75, 80 degrees. And when you have no shade and no wind, that feels hot on a duck hunting trip. And so we're like, man, we're hot. And my uncle lives actually, where my uncle lives. He lives right up against the marsh and you can look at it from his place. I'm like, why don't we go over to my uncle's and find some trees and just lay around for a few hours, take a nap, work on editing some of the videos. And so that's what we did. And I actually used the HTR layout lounge for this. Is we just went under these trees and you could see the whole wide open marsh laying there. I don't know if you saw that one picture. I think I sent it to the Flyaways where I'm like, I've got my computer there. I've got the marsh in the background. I've got a beer sitting there. And I was just laying in the HTR on the layout lounge and actually a breeze picked up. It was the perfect afternoon. It was so beautiful. And it was just wonderful. And so, I knew we had to do a lot of scouting because there's multiple places I wanted to look. I wanted to find some fresh birds and something different. And so the first place, from my uncle's lodge, if you walk straight down into the marsh, right?
Yep.
Right there, now that they've raised the water, the marsh comes right up to his property line where it had never come that far before. And we always knew that this corner would be really good on high water. And now that whole corner down by his place is just like beautiful little potholes. And so Aiden and I went down there. My uncle let us drive our truck right to the border. We walked in, Aiden walked one way and I walked the other. And I got out, it was like cattails and smartweed. And the more I started walking into it, I wasn't flushing anything, but finally I flushed a couple more. And I looked off in the distance and I keep seeing birds flying over there. And so I keep walking and walking and walking. By this time I had walked quite a ways away, but when you see birds continually move off in the distance and you're scouting, you gotta keep going. Right. And so I got over there and turned a corner and I flushed like 50 and I saw a huge group go down even farther. And where they went down, you can view from the certain area. And there were some guys scouting. And so I'm like, I know there's a load of birds in this spot. I just guarantee you there is a load of birds. And I didn't have my phone with me. And I knew Aiden and my dad weren't going to know where I was because I had traveled so much farther than what we had intended on doing. So I'm just sitting there hiding behind a tree, waiting for these guys to leave the scouting point. And they were a long ways away, but I could see them. And if they had looked exactly the right area and I had flushed the birds, then they might've been able to see the birds. So I just waited and waited and they just wouldn't leave. They wouldn't leave. And I was getting so annoyed. Well, finally they left because I'm like, I know there's a ton of birds down in there. And I went down in there and sure enough, it's one of the situations I was talking about where I was like, man, they're not flushing. Where are they? I thought there's birds in here. And next thing I know, there's like hundreds flushing over here, over there, over here. And it was so satisfying because I'm on like the scout trip and during the whole time I'm still like, man, I just want to find a bunch of birds in here. I just want to find a bunch of birds in here. And then I found them. And so I'm so excited. I walk back, bring Aiden and my dad in and we look at it and everything. And so our scouting was over like before we even started scouting. And that place is so hard to get to. I mean, because we've got that private access to get in there to it. And it's like, so now in the morning, we were able to just drive our trucks right up to the boundary line and just dump in our kayaks right there off my uncle's and go like a half a mile where anyone else would have had to have gone like a couple miles to get to this spot. And so we made the decision that we had two spots that I knew were going to be pretty good. That we had the X and then we had another spot that wasn't near as many birds, but this other spot overlooked the entire pool, and it was a really beautiful spot. And I love overlooking big bodies of water. So I'm like, I want to hunt that spot really, really bad. And, we kind of had the better X spot than Josh did on the first day. So I'm like, Josh and Aiden went back to the X, which was a great spot, but maybe not as aesthetically pleasing as the spot my dad and I were on. And he and I hunted this little tiny ankle pool that was just off of the main pool. So it was a lot slower than I expected it to be. It really was. I thought it was going to be a quick limit from what we'd seen the day before. And I don't know whether that was just an evening spot where they were down in there. We still basically shot our limit, but I thought it was just going to be quick, easy shooting. And essentially it was just popping singles and doubles. And by 10:15, I think Josh and Aiden limited right about 10 o'clock. For a teal hunt, that's a long time. Now they shot really poorly from Josh's video, and they were facing right into the sun. So I think they would have limited a lot earlier if they'd shot a little better and if they were facing a different direction. But my dad and I we could have shot our limit. But he's got the camera. And so he's only filming until I shoot my limit. And then I'm filming when he shoots his limit. So if it had been you and I in there both blazing, we would have had our limit. A lot, no problem. We would have had our limit, but doing it that way, my dad and I ended up with 9, Josh and Aiden ended up with 12. And it was just little singles and pairs coming right into the pocket. And I'd set up the decoys in a way. And I remember telling my dad, I was like, man, here's the pocket. I want him to set right in the pocket. And I swear to you, almost every bird came and was like right perfect, exactly where I wanted them set up. So got pretty good GoPro film footage and everything. And didn't focus as much on the video as on the dog. I was feeling kind of lazy and a little tired. So I didn't focus as much I was focusing a little bit more on my own mental experience than I was the filming aspect of it. But it was a great hunt. So the 4 of us over the 2 days were 3 birds off I guess we would have had a total of 8 limits over the 2 days. We were 3 birds off the total limit. I shot my first 2 green wings of the day or of the year, which was nice. But it was just a relaxing one. I got hunt just my dad and I, which was really cool. And I think that kind of translates in the video, that it's just my dad and I, and talking about how, for my life, my hunting group has been my dad and myself. That's been my hunting group, with every now and then my uncle and cousins would be involved. But for the most part, until I started FDH, really, my hunting life was just my dad and I. And so it was really nice just to be hunting the 2 of us and everything, and beautiful morning and coyotes howling. It was a great it was a more laid back hunt than the other ones this year, where it's just a little slower, a little more slow paced. And for a Sunday morning, it was just perfect.
Awesome. You definitely, that's definitely a lot of what it's all about, getting out there with your dad and all that. So I'm sure that was an awesome little teal hunt to have that. And, It sounds like a killer total weekend. So I can't wait to check out that second video for sure. So I'll probably,
and at 77, he is doing really, really well. He's 77 years old, and he's had some heart problems and stuff, and he's doing really, really well.
Yeah.
For 77, I'll tell you, I doubt that I will be doing what he's doing when I'm 77. I'd be surprised, because he's hanging right in there. I know it makes him feel he mentioned to me how it's kind of tough to be the old guy in that situation, because there's times in which his balance isn't what it used to be, and there's times in which I'll get out of the kayak and pull him behind me, and that's hard. I know that's hard for him to see. He muttered a comment, something about, man, what it'd be like to be 24 like Josh again, and it's just like, these moments, these days are precious. They really, really are. And it means a lot that he's able to get out there with me. And I don't know if you've noticed, I've been trying to focus on him more this season in the videos, and just capture him, because he's just a wonderful man. He's funny. And so I've really been making a concerted effort to get more of just the back and forth between the 2 of us. And it's a blessing to have this many years with your dad at your side, or probably more like me at his side, because he's in the mentor, but a wonderful experience.
Awesome. Definitely agree with you on that. That's pretty cool. All right. Well, does that wrap up your teal hunts then?
That wraps them up. We went back and put camp to get back together. And one thing I'll say about Josh that I was really impressed about is that he's kind of like Aiden in that, man, if something needs to be done to help you out, he jumps to it. And I had never seen that part of his personality. Like, we're packing up camp and everything, and he's got all his stuff packed up. He could have just left if, I wouldn't have thought anything. He was like, okay, guys, I got my stuff. I wouldn't have thought about it. But he's jumping over, rolling up our tent and everything. And I had not seen that aspect about him. Not many people are that eager to help you out. I know Aiden is. I know that I can do better about that. And I've been around you. I know you can do way better now. but I was impressed by Josh in that aspect. I hadn't seen that part of his character, and it was pretty impressive.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump to the rest of my hunts. So, like I said, I don't have any killer teal hunts to tell you about, but hopefully you can, follow along with the woes with me. But so my next hunt, I went out. I actually went scouting. The next day, I went scouting on that Sunday morning. And I just scouted everywhere because I think we talked about it on our last podcast. Just I haven't had time to keep up with the scouting, unfortunately. And, even with their season coming in. So I went and hit up a bunch of places that I know there's birds in the past, and I mean, I scouted probably for 4 or 5 hours that morning, just driving all around, and I got a few options, or I thought I had anyway. And so I ended up hunting that evening. And went to a spot. There's just a ton of geese on the spot, and I really don't like to hunt it because it's not out there like in the wild. Like we have a lot of that in Indiana where people hunt on like ponds that have houses around it, and then there's a section that's like a little bit marshy, but you can still you're still not out in the wild if that makes sense. Just because there's so many people in Indiana compared to going out in the Central Flyway where you're just out in the boonies everywhere. So it was a setting like that, and there's just a bunch of geese on it, and so I'm like, shoot, I'm going to go for it. And so I go out there that evening, and I did a layout hunt, which I don't do layout hunting like ever, barely ever, but I had the 119 all set up for it, the HTR layout lounge in there, and the redhead blind attachment on the kayak. So I go out there by myself, no chief because I can't with that smaller kayak. But I go out there for that hunt. Like I said, a bunch of geese there in the morning. I probably saw like 250. So I set up in a spot that had really good cover, but I was probably 100 yards away from where they're landing. And I don't know why I ever do that because it just doesn't work. The birds want to be where they want to be. And so I laid out there. Like I said, I'm 100 to 75 yards away from where the birds are. And I had no idea that there's actually teal out there. And for that whole evening, I didn't have any teal decoys. I didn't have a spinner. And I probably saw, like, in that spot where the geese all were, I probably saw 20 to 25 teal just landed. They came in pairs, groups of 4 or 5. And just landed. It was like torture right in front of me, like 7,500 yards. And so I had a couple times where I probably could have took a passing shot. But in the layout boat, I just wasn't quick enough. I'd see them, and they'd be, past me before I could get on them. So, and then I only had 2 geese come in before shooting light. And early season, it's kind of like that a lot of times. Evening hunts in early season are really super hit or miss. But I had 2 geese come in, and they both landed 7,500 yards away, right where they were that morning. So it was a good lesson learned that you can't. I thought I could pull them. I really did. I really thought, I'm gonna put the decoys here. There's no birds here, and I can pull them 75 yards.
Yeah,
but
it's not that far to ask.
Yeah, no, and they just didn't. I'd call, and they'd. One of them I called super hard, and instead of landing, he kind of repicked up and kept going. He's like, something ain't right there. So the other one.
So how come you couldn't get out? How come you couldn't get out that 75 yards? How come you couldn't be there?
Well, it was just like more open water with cattails, or not cattails, lily pads. So, I probably could
Are
have.
the lily pads on the water, or are they up exposed out of the water?
They're up out of the water. So I still would have been above them, but I thought about doing it again later in the week at the same spot and then just setting up on it. But it just didn't happen. So, and like I said, if it had been somewhere where I liked hunting, I would have gone back. But I just had the lack of motivation. I'm like, I really don't even want to hunt here because the houses and, people, and early season too, people fish these lakes. So, I had a couple fishermen come by, and it's just like, I don't know, man. It just wasn't my cup of tea. So, I don't know. You probably don't have to experience anything like that in Kansas, do you?
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah. And no, I don't know what other states. I'd be really curious to know what other states have kind of similar issues. I know I've seen, memes on like hardcore waterfowler with bass fishermen and early season goose hunters on ponds, or lakes. So, yeah, that was, all of that kind of going into it. I didn't go back, but I really think if I would have gone back, that I probably could have pulled them in. I could have sat the layout boat in the lily pads and shot teal and maybe a couple geese. So if I'd been setting up there that night, I would have easily shot my limit of teal and 2 geese. But instead, I just sat there and watched.
Yeah, rough. Just off it.
Yep. So
I'm sure I've told you this, but you can eat those seeds of those lily pad plants.
Yeah, I remember that from one of your early FDH videos.
They're delicious too in stir fry. They really are. They're good.
Nice. Yeah. Well, maybe one of these times I'll be out there with you and you can cook some up.
Yeah. I haven't had them for a while.
So yeah, that wraps up that hunt. And then the only other hunt I went on to add to it is I went on a hunt in a cut cornfield, and this one was looking like it's going to be a real solid one. I had some local guys invite me on it. They'd been scouting it, and geese were using it morning and evening every night for like the last 3 days. And so kind of everything was set up to do it, and we go out there to get on the hunt. And it was a pretty cool setting because the farmer had cut like half the field, and the other half was standing corn still, so we could hide in the standing corn with a panel blind in front of us. And you just needed one side, to block the side that the birds were going to be on, and then have corn all around you. So, like I said, everything's kind of set up for this to be a pretty solid hunt. The birds are using it. We're going to be in the right spot, right time. Well, the morning before we hunted it, and I don't know how much you know about silage fields, but most of the time silage fields are owned by dairy farmers, and they just use it. They grow the corn and they cut it in September, and they just grind it all up and feed it to the cows. So it's not even, for the corn, it's just to feed it all to the cows. It's not seed corn or anything like that. So, but the second thing they do on all these fields to keep them going is they spread them with manure. So,
Ugh.
Yeah, they just spray manure. Like September in Indiana, or probably anywhere that does a lot of dairy farms, there's a strong scent of manure out in the country everywhere. So the morning before the hunt, the farmer manured the field. So, but
you're having some bad luck this season.
So that's the worst part about it is not even like the smell or there being poop in the field, but that like the birds were using it, and he busts them off there, and so that just screws everything up, right? So then we get there in the evening, we're like, oh no, like really, he couldn't just wait one more day. Like we just got,
oh my gosh.
So yeah, we got screwed on that one. I mean, that's just what they do, so there's nothing you can do about it. He was just really quick on the draw, and yeah, so we had a group of 3 come in, and one bird got shot. They landed out in the field, and they walked over. One guy walked over the hill over there and was able to shoot one. And then we had another flock come in of like 12, and they came right over top, and we dumped a few more out of that one. But we were still at that point. We didn't know if we're going to have a solid hunt, because before that, there's like hundreds of birds in the field. Now that time, only 15 showed up after, that morning kind of ordeal with the farmer and the manure. So, so I just filmed those two groups, the 3 and the 12, and then I put the camera away, and no more birds flew. So, so on my 5 hunts, only one of them's been like a true skunk, and that was the one I went on and probably saw the most birds, and just didn't get to pull the trigger because they're 75 yards away, and I wasn't set up for it. But the other hunts have all had birds shot, and I've only pulled the trigger on one of them. So,
well, at least you're seeing birds.
Yeah,
some action, right?
Yeah, and that's probably why I said, at the beginning, like, it doesn't feel like my worst season because we're having hunts that are having some success. It's not like, limits and, just everybody going crazy and all that. But like I said, still having a lot of fun, still out there filming waterfowl content. So it's not a waste, still hanging out with buds and making new friends and getting to work chief on some birds. So overall, I'm still having a ton of fun with the early season, but it's just, I'm just a little off, man. It's just been a little off. So nothing you can do about it.
So what's up next for you? What's coming up?
So next we got some more early season goose and teal. Actually, I'm going to hunt with the Kevins in Michigan, and Kevin's got his son, and Michigan's youth season is this Saturday. So we're looking for a mixed bag. We're going to be able to shoot geese. The kid's going to be able to shoot ducks and geese. So that could be kind of cool. And then I'm going to be doing some salmon fishing too. So that's what I got coming up. How about you?
So you camping again?
I think that's the plan.
Mm-hmm. That'd be fun. Yeah, we're staying local around here, and I've got this spot picked out that I'm really optimistic about. But since I was out there, the water went down about 12 to 18 inches. So it's going to be, we're taking the big boat, and it's going to be, and I hate this, searching around in the dark for a place to set up. I hate doing that. And I'm worried because it was already mud flats to begin with, and now we lost 18 inches. So it may just be an A-frame on mud flats. And I'm trying to, like, how is my dad going to do in that? And so there's a lot of variables. And I'm taking the associate pastor from my church, who I've never even hung out. He actually just moved up here within the last year from Texas. And one of his friends was like, "Hey, watch this video. There's some guys that hunt in Kansas. Maybe you'll see this guy." It was one of my videos. And then, I happened to stroll into his church that he's associate pastor on, and he's a pretty young guy. And so he came up to me after church, and he's like, "Yeah," and he knew who I was and everything. And he's a really nice guy. So I'm like, "All right, yeah, well, let's go out." So, but I wish I had the details of this hunt pinned down a little bit better for taking someone out like that. There's just so many variables, and I'm a little nervous about it. I won't lie. I'm almost nervous enough to go to a different spot. Now, I know for a fact that I had a friend scout that I think there's probably lots and lots and lots and lots of teal out there running these banks. So that's the only thing that's keeping me going to it, because it doesn't get hunted much. And my buddy that went out and scouted it 2 weeks ago sent me pictures of just hundreds of teal all over the place. So nice. That's the only reason I'm still going. I'm really nervous about how it's going to play out and what kind of muddy situation I get my dad and this guy named Keith in too. But I think the birds will be there. I'll have the HDR A-frame. So we'll see what happens.
Awesome. Well, like we said last week, we're in the full swing, even more so. And the next week after that, I'm off to big duck season. So my first trip for the Chasing the Opener. So it's getting hot and heavy. It's getting some awesome action. So, I don't mean to be all woe is me all podcast. I'm not even feeling that way. I mean, maybe just a tiny bit, and it's probably because Elliott's just crushing them. So,
yeah, we probably don't want to do a comparison of our freelance hunt stats today.
No, yeah, we do. I got mine pulled up. So,
okay,
I'll go ahead and say what mine are. Actually, you go ahead first.
Okay, let me resort it, guys. This is freelance hunt stats. website that Jordan and I are working on together where you can log all of your, it's like a journal on steroids, really, or it does all sorts of cool stuff. So I have been on 4 hunts, harvested 23, lost 1, shot 32 shots, 75%, averaging 5 shells a hunt. So my shooting's been outstanding. My shooting's been like really, really good. I've been awesome with that start. 21 blue wing and 2 green wing.
Nice. Definitely solid. So I've been on 5 hunts. I've harvested 3, lost 0. So I got you on that one.
Yep.
6 shots fired, 50% shooting range, or 50% shooting percentage. Harvest per hunt is 0.6. So you only can go up from there.
Yep. And it's probably a good time to mention, if you guys want some extra content from Jordan and myself, we've got some stuff going on over at patreon.com, where if you go over to Patreon, you can sign up for that. And that comes with a bonus gift of the Freelance Hunt Stat site. So you can get 2 for 1. And Patreon right now has really got a lot going on, where there's conversations after the videos we post there. We posted a bonus podcast. So patreon.com/freelance duck hunting. If you want to come join us over there, and you can have a lot closer access to Jordan. I don't know about you. Well, we're kind of joint over there. So messages go to both of us, but I jump on them and always respond. We got a lot of people just asking personal questions. And so that is the tightest of knit group that you can get into with Jordan and I.
Awesome. Definitely agree with you on all that. And I don't think you mentioned on that as well, but on the Freelance Hunt Stats site, then you can do it as well. So it's either join that for the membership, or you can get it over on Patreon for the kind of 2 for 1 with that deal. So awesome. Well, I think that's pretty much a wrap for our hunt update this week. It's going to be another good one. We got some exciting guests coming, in the future here. We got a bunch of guests lined up. I know it's been just me and Elliott here for the last, I don't know, it's been a couple months since we've had a guest on. So, oh no, it hasn't. We've had one in the past. So, but we got some more awesome guests lined up here in the near future. But I think that's all we got for this week. Elliott, you got any last words?
Nope, got nothing.
Alrighty, folks. Thanks again for tuning in for another episode. I'm Jordan from Duck Gun Chronicles, Elliott from Freelance Duck Hunting, and we'll see you on the next one.